What's going on, guys? This is Logan here, back with Courtside TV, and today we've got Hunter and Noah back again today, and this is going to be part 2 of our March Madness, little mini-series of videos. The first weekend is over, obviously. Today, recording this is Wednesday. It should be up on Wednesday as well. And the second weekend starts tomorrow, which is the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. So, talking about the first round, we didn't have any huge upsets. The highest seed to win was 13 seed UC Irvine over Kansas State, and that was a popular upset pick, I'd say. I think the most surprising was that all the 9 seeds won. All the 9 seeds beat 8 seeds, and 3 out of the 4 10 seeds beat 7 seeds. So it didn't seem like there was as many crazy upsets this year or game-winning buzzer beaters this year as there have been in recent years. But there was kind of the closer games, like the 8, 9, 7, 10s. There's a lot of lower seeds winning in those games. And then a few 12 seeds won as well. So get you guys' initial reactions on that.
Yeah, definitely a lot of close games. Teams that surprised me was definitely Louisville didn't play up to what I thought they would in the tournament. And I don't think they've been the same since they got that comeback from Duke when Louisville was up 20-something. Mm-hmm. But that surprised me, and then, just a lot of close games, and then,
I do want to point out that a couple of my Cinderella or, kind of potential dark horses both got out in the first round. I talked about Cincinnati being a dark horse.
Oh, yeah.
They dropped to Iowa, and then Iowa had a really nice comeback against Tennessee but couldn't finish it off. And then Syracuse, my other dark horse, they lost to Baylor in the first round, so just a lot going on. Like I said, with those 8, 9, 7, 10, 5, 12 games. So Noah, initial reaction.
Yeah, I think it wasn't as many upsets as you like to see, especially the ones that were upsets pretty much lost in the second round, except Oregon still in there. But I think it's the only real double-digit seed, real high seed at all is Oregon. But I think the most fun part was getting to see some individual performances out of some excellent players. I know John Morant played excellent, and then Carson Edwards also put on the show. Just watching some individual players really showcase, rather than the usual big shots of March Madness. There's a lot of great performances on a big stage.
Yeah, and I'm sure any of y'all that have been paying attention, obviously the Sweet 16 set starts tomorrow and Friday, and we have all 4 1 seeds made it, all 4 2 seeds made it, and all 4 3 seeds made it to the Sweet 16, which is not, I wouldn't say that's normal. And then we have a 5 seed in Auburn, a 12 seed in Oregon. That's about a 4 seed in FSU. But yeah, so really it's a lot of chalk, as we've talked about, just the higher seeds making it. And as Noah pointed out, a lot of the 9 seeds that won and the 10 seeds that won, they got out in the second round anyway. Mm-hmm. So even though it was a slight upset in the first round, it's they got knocked off by the higher seed anyway in the second round. So and I guess we'll go ahead and move on to definitely the game of the weekend. That was Duke and UCF in the second round. A lot of people made a big deal about this matchup because you've got Zion, arguably the best player in college basketball this year, and you've got Taco Fall, the tallest player, as far as I know, the tallest player in college basketball this year, 7'6", playing at UCF. And UCF's head coach, Johnny Dawkins, used to play at Duke, so this was a very intriguing game for a lot of reasons. And it lived up to the hype, thankfully. Any of you that watched it know how it ended. Really tough ending for UCF. Duke won by a point, and they're moving on to take Virginia Tech. But that was definitely the game of the weekend. And any thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think best game of the tournament so far. Yeah, and it was just interesting. I mean, a lot of people complain about the refs. I saw on Twitter and stuff after the game, but it went both ways. With Cam Rush's 4th foul, and then all the tacos, whatever, the blocks and everything. They could have been fouls, but it was definitely a crazy ending. And I think just that one little roll could have happened and it would have been a basket. It's crazy to think
few
that
inches.
Close could have Duke getting beat and most people's bracket getting busted.
Yeah, it was a crazy finish. I think it was exciting to see RJ Barrett do something at the end of the game. It's kind of what J.R. Smith probably should have did this past year actually.
Yeah.
And basically that same situation. But yeah, I think that was definitely the most exciting game. A lot of the other games ended up being blowouts in the second round, which wasn't that much fun to watch. Actually, the LSU one, that was a fun finish as well.
Iowa, Tennessee, that was
a fun finish as well. Tennessee kind of blew that lead there. But yeah, I think for the most part, there's a lot of blowouts that you don't necessarily expect. But
And then also I want to talk about Wofford. So they looked really good in the first round against Seton Hall, and they matched up with Kentucky in the second round. A lot of people thought it was going to be a good game. It was a really, really good game. But Wofford's best player, I forget his first name, Fletcher McGee, all-time leader in three-pointers made in college basketball history, went 0 for 12 in that game against Kentucky. And Wofford only lost by, I believe, 5. Yeah, I think it was 62-57 or something like that. So Wofford hung in really well with Kentucky. But, you know, Fletcher didn't have probably one of his worst games.
If you just hit a couple shots, it would have been...
They kept it close, like, the whole game. Like,
right.
And he had, like, a couple wide-open looks at the end that would have, like, put them up that 2 points. But it was one of those days, shots weren't falling.
So looking at the second round, I mean, Duke UCF was a game. Maryland LSU was a game. And then Wofford Kentucky and Iowa Tennessee. That was really about it. The rest of them were pretty much blowouts, or at least 10-point wins or something like that. So moving on to Sweet 16, which starts, like I said, tomorrow. I'll just kind of go by each matchup, and we'll just say who we think is going to win. We won't stay on it for too long at a time. But all right, well, let's look at that first matchup in the East. We got Duke and Virginia Tech. Obviously, Virginia Tech has beaten Duke this year. I'm going to go with Duke, though.
I'm tempted to go with Duke, but I think I'm going to go with V-Tech just because I think a lot of teams look at that Duke-UCF game, and Dawkins, the head coach, put a plan, show how you can, beat Duke, because they put it in the hands of Cam Reddish and basically taking away from RJ and Zion and making the other plays, I think it's Laurier or something like that, making them make the tough shots. And I think Virginia Tech's going to come in there with a lot of confidence, knowing UCF almost beat them, and VT already beat them early in the season. So I think they'll have a lot of confidence.
I think giving Coach K that long to get his team ready for this matchup, I don't think that anything that UCF did to really expose Duke will still be a weakness then.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, if you are putting it in the hands of Cam Reddish, I know most of the year he just hasn't been used to that because he's being the third option. But I think, knowing that, okay, they'll probably try and put it in my hands, make me beat him, and it'll be like that Cam Reddish that was expected to be at Duke the whole season, and hopefully he'll show a little better. So I got Duke in that matchup. It's hard to bet against him.
So another Sweet 16 matchup in the East, we've got LSU versus Michigan State. That should be a really, really good game. Michigan State, first round, struggled against Bradley. Had a blowout win against Minnesota in the second round, and now playing LSU, a really solid team. I'm going to go with MSU here. I've been watching Michigan State all year, obviously, being a Michigan fan, Big Ten fan, and I think they'll take care of LSU.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Michigan State's all around just a more complete team. They're starting to play well. Besides that first half against Bradley, but they've been picking it up lately.
I think I'm going to go with LSU here. I think that, the scandal that's been going on around there, the players are trying to rally around that, not having their head coach. It's going to be like an emotional ride. I think that really could lead them to make a big run. I think that's going to help them here this weekend. Just not the logistics, but the fantasy stuff of March is going to carry them to the win.
All right, so that's the East, and then obviously the Elite Eight will be played. So the next time we do this video, it'll be in the Final Four. So then that have probably a Duke or one of those 4 teams. Obviously, will be coming out of that region the next time we make a video. So moving on to the West, first game we've got Gonzaga and Florida State. I know Gonzaga is a really, really good team, but it's hard for me to go to pick Gonzaga just because of the competition they've played all year. They looked pretty good in the first couple rounds. Florida State actually beat them in the Sweet 16 last year as well. And I'm going to say that repeats. I'm going to say Florida State beats Gonzaga once again. I'm
going to go with the Zags this year. I don't see Florida State pulling off the upset 2 years in a row. They're a good team when they're clicking, and they have, it's kind of just a pick-em game. Whichever team's playing their best will win that game, but it's definitely going to be a good game, I think.
I'd love to be able to pick Florida State, but I'm going to have to go with Gonzaga here. I think that I had my doubts about them, but I think they showed really well the first 2 games of the tournament, a lot better than I thought they would. And I think that, they have, they don't play in their conference games as much talent, but they did beat Duke very early in the season. But I think they're more legit than they have been in the past as a 1 seed. So I'm going to go with Gonzaga.
All right, so the next Sweet 16 matchup in the West, that's Texas Tech versus Michigan. This is going to be a defensive, whatever you want to call it. That's going to be a very defensive game. Texas Tech ranks first in defensive efficiency in the country, and Michigan ranks second. So this is going to be a grinded out game, and the first team to maybe 60 points will probably win. But I'm a Michigan fan. I got to go with Michigan.
I'm going to go with Texas Tech. I think Culver's starting to play good, and they got, I think, Mooney, right, is the white dude.
I haven't watched much this year, but
yeah, but I think if Culver turns it on, I think they'll win that matchup. I'm basing it solely on him. It depends on how he does.
Yeah, that game is going to come down. It's going to be Jarrett Culver's make or break game. I think that'll help his draft stock a lot. If he shows well, then I think the Texas Tech is going to, it is going to be based on him, but I think it'll really help his draft stock. Jeez, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with Texas Tech to piss Logan off and to go based on Jarrett Culver because I kind of want the Hawks to get him. I think that he'll show well on the big stage.
All right, so that's the West, those two matchups. Then heading down, I should say, to the South. This is where we've got the lowest seed left, and that is Oregon. 12 seed Oregon will be playing 1 seed Virginia. I think a lot of people are going to be picking Oregon in this game, and that's just because they look so good. They blew out Wisconsin, and they kind of struggled versus UC Irving to start the second half, but then they turned it on, and it was a show. I watched that game, and it was really fun to watch Oregon turn it on. They just looked unstoppable. This is tough because Virginia hasn't looked the best, and Oregon has looked the best. So that's tough. I've got Virginia in a lot of my brackets. I'm going to have to go with Virginia here because I think Oregon's going to be the more popular pick, but I think Virginia will actually show up and have their best game of the tournament and win that one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Virginia too just because they got the experienced guys with DeAndre Hunter and them. I think this game is going to be when they turn it on and show that they're not the same team as last year and that they have something to prove.
It is the magic of March. Oregon just won their conference tournament, and they are riding that. They have looked excellent in both games. I'm going to say they keep the momentum going and at least get this game against Virginia here. I don't know how far they'll go after that, but I'm going to say they got this game against Virginia.
All right, so moving on to the next matchup in the South. That's Purdue and Tennessee. Now, we mentioned Tennessee blew a big lead against Iowa. They managed to hang on for the win in overtime, and Purdue blew out Villanova. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup. Obviously, Carson Edwards went off for a career-high 42 against Villanova. Being the Big Ten fan I am, I'm going to go with Purdue here just because I saw how Iowa was able to come back in that game against Tennessee, and Purdue's a better team than Iowa. I know it's March and anyone can turn it on at any time, and that's kind of what happened with Iowa in that second half. They just had a really good momentum that they kept riding. But I think Purdue matches up better against Tennessee than Iowa did, especially with Carson Edwards and the 7-footer Harms in the middle. So I'm going to go with Purdue there.
I'm going to take Tennessee. I think that game against Iowa, second half, the first half, Tennessee controlled them, and then Schofield and Williams actually got into foul trouble, and that's what killed Tennessee second half. And I think that duo of them and Boone, I think he's one of the best point guards in the SEC. I think Tennessee will be able to take the dub over Purdue.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Purdue here because I think Carson, I just watched that shooting performance, and it was just so incredible. I don't think that, if Tennessee is able to slow him down, that'll definitely help them, but I don't think that they'll be able to make the same mistakes they made against Iowa, against Purdue. I think Carson Edwards will make them pay.
Yeah, and kind of like Virginia, I think Purdue is one of those teams, based on what I've watched during the Big Ten season, Purdue will shoot the lights out. If they get hot from three with Carson Edwards, Ryan Klein, they've got some guys that can really hit the three. So that'll be a fun game to watch. Now moving on to the last region, that's the Midwest. We've got North Carolina and Auburn. I think this might be one of the best games of the Sweet 16. Auburn looked really good, obviously, against Kansas. They didn't look the best against New Mexico State. That game came down to the very end, but they did look really, really good against Kansas. I think they put up like 50 points in the first half and just blew out Kansas. So North Carolina-Auburn should be a really good one. I'm going to go with North Carolina, though.
Yeah, definitely a big offensive. I think it's going to be the highest scoring game of the Sweet 16. And yeah, I think these are two of the hottest teams in the Sweet 16 right now, both coming off of pretty big wins in the second round. And yeah, I'm going to have to go with Carolina because I know Auburn wants to get out and run. That's what I saw Bruce Pearl, I think it is, said in the conference. He was like, we're unafraid to run with them, but usually when teams try to run with Carolina, it ends up going bad.
Yeah, I think if I'm gonna go with Auburn just to be different, but I think Auburn, just watching them shoot against Kansas was so incredible. If they come anywhere close to that against North Carolina, I guess they both are really high-paced teams, but it is going to be whoever shoots better. And watching Auburn do that, I think it was pretty incredible. I think they'll keep that momentum going.
All right, so moving on to the last matchup of the Sweet 16, we've got the 3-seed Houston facing the 2-seed Kentucky. This should be another really good game. Houston looked really, really good against Georgia State and Ohio State. Granted, those are both double-digit seeds, so Kentucky's going to be by far the toughest team they've played yet in the tournament. But I think Houston's got a bit of a chip on their shoulder just because they're from the American Athletic Conference, a smaller conference. I don't think they're getting as much respect as, let's say, the other teams in the tournament. I believe, looking at it, I mean, Gonzaga's a smaller conference, but I think Gonzaga and Houston are the only non-Power 5 teams in the Sweet 16. So I think Houston's going to have a chip on their shoulder. They just know how to win. They've been winning all year. And I'm going to go with the upside here. I'm going to pick Houston over Kentucky.
Yep. I think I'm going to go with Kentucky. I think they're going to get P.J. Washington back this weekend. I'm not too sure, but...
That'll be crucial, too.
Yeah,
that'll be huge.
I think if he comes back, I think they can win, but if he's not back, I would have to go with Houston, but...
I'm going to go with Kentucky. I think we talked about this last week. They're just clicking at the right time. They didn't have as good of a class as they usually do, but still just a lot of talents clicking at the right time. It's hard to bet against Coach Cal.
Yeah, so that's the Sweet 16. It should be a really, really fun few days. So the Sweet 16 games are Thursday and Friday, and then the Elite 8 games will be Saturday and Sunday. So come next week, we'll do a third part to this video, and that we'll be in the Final Four at that point. So should be a really exciting weekend. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts, anything, but yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments about the first weekend games, who you think from the teams left is going to make it all the way and win the whole thing. So that'll be it for this video. We'll see you guys next week.